feature presentation.
Welcome back to another episode of TIFF Talk 2022. I am one of your hosts, Matt Rohrbeck, alongside, he's allergic to tomatoes, but he is tomato meter approved, Eric Marchin.
All eyes are on the festival. We finally got a major announcement with multiple films and not just one
slow
per
drip.
week. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they're all the special presentations or galas, but a large portion of them were announced today. So this is why we are doing a special TIFF Talk 2022 episode, which won't necessarily be a regular episode. So it won't be episode 128. That will still come next week.
Next Monday. Yeah. Usually this is a segment we do within the Untitled Movie Podcast, the 8th best podcast in Canada. You guys can go check out our newest draft where we do talk a little bit about TIFF stuff, but mostly about Comic-Con and Marvel and Phase 5 and 6. So you guys can go check that out. Yeah, we usually do this as a small segment in the show, but we thought this deserved its own little mini episode. And when I say mini, it'll still probably be over an hour, but that's mini for us. Yeah, Eric, we've been getting a slow drip of TIFF announcements over the last, I gotta say, like month and a half, right? Like, or so,
Yeah.
or at least the month of July.
It's been stressing people out too, because TIFF has never done this before. In that
people
kind of
don't like
slow
change.
release. No, change is the worst. You need to stick to a routine or a format that people are comfortable with. But then again, I mean, like it's contrarian in a way, because like what people are looking for when they're looking for films sometimes are movies that kind of draw or outside of those lines. And when you're watching a movie, you're always looking for something, especially at a festival, something new, something interesting, something different. And so TIFF tried that this year. And, I think having a mixture of smaller movies and the obvious, kind of big gets, like something like the Fabelmans, which we talked about in the last episode, Spielberg's movie, kind of being a really big deal for TIFF, not only because it is Spielberg's first directed film at the festival, but also it having its world premiere there. And I think that's a really big deal. So with this morning's announcement, smornings, I'm just going to call it a smorning. We got quite a few gala and special presentations, some of which will also be playing at Venice. But it's also nice to know that TIFF let Venice have their day and didn't announce anything on that day, because it probably would have been overshadowed by Venice.
Yeah. Well said. I think we should just go through them. And, I think people look forward to this where I butcher many names.
Alex Reno will be on you as soon as this thing comes out and he listens.
Because have I practiced this? No. So I apologize in advance.
So it's going to be even better.
If I butcher anyone's name, which will probably be a lot of people. I don't mean to offend. It's just I'm trying my best. Let's read the whole announcement. And I know, Eric, you put together a little list of 18 or so movies that you think are the S tier, like the ones we got to see and cover at the festival. But I just want to talk about the lineup as a whole. And we can compare it to that Venice lineup, what's missing here, what we're excited for most, and what people should, what the hardest tickets might be to get, all that kind of stuff. So let's go through it. So have the press release in front of me here. Here are and going back to your original point, where if this is all the gala and special presentations, I think that's the intention. But near the festival, they sometimes always kind of add a couple in each section.
The stragglers. So, there's always a last minute addition.
Yeah, there might be something that gets added to or drops out. Clifford being one of recent memory. So something might drop out or something might be added. And then we also probably over the next couple weeks have different programs like Midnight Madness, Discovery, Masters, Primetime. I don't know what else I'm missing. That pretentious one that people like.
Is Vanguard? Is Vanguard back? Vanguard or is it back. No? Because it was
Vanguard wasn't pretentious, but Vanguard was cool.
Vanguard was good.
Nevis, what's the pretentious TIFF category that everyone likes. What is it?
I think that's what it's
What?
called. Pretentious TIFF
Wavelengths.
category.
Wavelengths. Got
Oh,
it.
yes. Yeah. The
It's-
experimental category.
Nevis is yelling it's not pretentious. It can be.
It's experimental, but I think any category can have pretentious
Oh, there's going to
films
be
within
pretentious
it,
films in here. I'm just kind of being
Yeah.
an idiot, which I always am. Okay, let's go through it. Gala Presentations 2022 for TIFF. So we have Alice Darling by Mary Nighy, Black Ice by Hubert Davis, or Hubbard. I don't know. I went with Hubert. Butcher's Crossing from Gabe Polsky. The Greatest Beer Run Ever by Peter Fairley. He's back, baby. The Hummingbird by Francesca Archibugi.
I'm not laughing at the name. I'm laughing at Matt's
yeah.
pronunciation.
Hunt. Sometimes that just helps. I'm trying to pronunciate everything. Hunt by Lee Jung Jae. A Jasmine's Blues by Tyler Perry.
I think it's Tyler Perrier.
Yeah. Catchy Limbu by Shubham Yogi. Moving On by Paul Weitz. Paul Weitz. Why am I thinking? Who am I thinking?
Well, you're thinking Chris, because Chris and Paul Weitz
Yeah.
are brothers, and they directed, or they co-directed American Pie, and
right. That's who
Chris went on to direct
of.
one of the Twilight films.
Yep.
And, yeah.
There's another Twilight connection coming up too. Paris Memories by Alice Winocour. Winocour.
I think it's Winocour.
Prisoner's Daughter, Catherine Hardwick. There it is.
Vampires Playing Baseball.
Yeah. Raymond and Ray by Rodrigo Garcia. Roost by Amy Redford. Sydney by Reginald Hudlin. The Sun by Florian Zeller. The opening night film is The Swimmers by Sally L. Hosani. What's Love Got to Do with It by Shikhar Kapoor. The Woman King by Gina Prince Bythewood. Special. Now that's all the galas, so we'll go through that in a sec. Let's go through the special presentations. Alleluia by Sir Richard Eyre. All Quiet on the Western Front by Edward Berger. The Banshees of Inisherin.
Of Ed Sheeran?
The Banshees of Ed Sheeran by Martin McDonough. Blueback by Robert Connolly. The Blue Caftan by Mariam Tuzani. Broker by Hirokazu Koreeda. Brother by Clement Virgo. Bros by Nicholas Stoller. Catherine Called Birdie by Lena Dunham. Causeway by Leela Neusbauer. Chevalier by Stephen Williams. Corsage by Mary Kreutzer. Decision to Leave by Park Chan-wook. Devotion by J.D. Dillard. Driving Madeline by Christian Carrion. El Suplente by Diego Lerman. Empire of Light by Sam Mendes. The Eternal Daughter by Joanna Hogg. The Fabelmans by Steven Spielberg. Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery by Ryan Johnson. Goodnight Oppie by Ryan White. The Good Nurse by Tobias Lindholm. Holy Spider by Ali Abbasi. Joyland by Sam Sadiq. The King's Horseman by B. Bandele. The Lost King by Stephen Frears. A Man of Reason by Jung Woo Sung. The Menu by Mark Mylode. On the Come Up by Santa Lathan. One Fine Morning by Mia Hansen Love. Other People's Children by Rebecca Zlotowski. Moonage Daydream by Brett Morgan. My Policeman by Michael Grandage. Nanny by Nikyatu Jusu. No Bears by Jafar Panahi. Isn't he in jail right now?
Yep. He was arrested for political protest in Iran.
We'll talk about that. That's awful. The Return of Tanya Tucker, featuring Brandy Carlisle, Catherine Horan. Saint Omer by Alice Diop. Sanctuary by Zachary. Nevis is yelling at me. Panahi? How do you say it? Panahi. Okay, I got it,
Jafar
Nevis. Thank you. I said I would struggle. I was doing pretty well. Stories Not to Be Told by Sek Gay. I think I missed Sanctuary by Zachary Wigan. Triangle of Sadness by Ruben Ostland. Walk Up by Hong Sang-soo. Wendell and Wild by Henry Selick. The Whale by Darren Aronofsky. Woman Talking by Sarah Polly. And The Wonder by Sebastian Lillo. Leo?
Lilio. Like, what's the
Lilio.
dealio, Lilio?
I think I did pretty well. Okay.
You did.
I did all
You
right.
had quite the load on this one.
Yeah. Eric, initial thoughts of the lineup, and I know you have your little list of 18 or so movies that you're pretty pumped about.
To quote Al Pacino in Heat, it's a good crew. It's a good crew. Yeah, it's also just fun, like, looking at some of the titles that haven't appeared at Venice, but also looking at what type of premiere they are. So, like, for example, Sam Mendes's Empire of Light being a film that says Canadian premiere. So
Which
that
means it's
means
at
it will probably Telluride. So I think that that's always important to look at as well when you get an announcement like this, because you can go through the list and see, like, okay, this is also probably going to end up playing at Telluride.
It
And
does kind
it
of
gives you a
spoil the
better
Telluride
idea.
lineup
It
whenever
does,
you see
it
Canadian
does.
premiere, usually.
But I mean, TIFF's biggest rivalry, I guess, is Telluride, so there's no love lost there. But yeah, like, it is a really good lineup, and I think there will be a lot of interest in Jafar Pahani's No Bears because he was just arrested by the Iranian government and sentenced to 6 years in prison, again, for protesting the authoritarian government. And he's one of those filmmakers who, if you've seen Taxi or This Is Not a Movie, he had gotten in trouble before with the government, and to the point where he had to smuggle This Is Not a Movie out of the country to get to the festival circuit. And you watch this man in that movie wanting to make a movie and sort of telling the story within the confines of house arrest in his apartment. And it's him hanging out with his pet iguana, and literally you can see the passion and frustration and anger. And yeah, who knows what's going to happen now, because they've arrested a few other filmmakers as well. And it's just like, it's just one of those things where it's, like, you look at the world and the way it is, and you think, like, okay, there's a lot of things going on in your personal life, and there's a lot of things going on around you, and it's stressful. But, like, living in Canada, there's a lot, it's not perfect by any means, but compared to what's going on with, Jafar Pahani and his family, you know, you have to consider yourself lucky, and to support somebody like that right now. I hope people go and see it, and I'm excited to see the film, based on a really great filmmaker. So, and if you haven't seen This Is Not a Movie or Taxi, they're also available to check out right now. So
nice, well put.
And Three Faces too.
Yeah. Well put. Anything else that you're kind of pumped for? I know we obviously talked about the Fabelmans on the last episode. We can kind of briefly talk about it again. Still mind blowing and still a huge get for a world premiere. I mean, it dominated kind of the conversation, because, like, even when the Venice lineup came out, like, that one of the headlines I remember seeing Variety was like, oh, it talks about not getting the Fabelmans. I'm like, that's your lead on their lineup being announced, and they asked kind of the head of Venice and stuff like that. And
well, that interview was really interesting as well, because when you read it, he's literally, you can tell he's upset. Like, obviously you're just reading.
Yeah, he said he wished Universal gave them some more heads up or something.
Yeah, or even invited them to the screening, because apparently the only people that have seen it, other than maybe some audience test screenings in LA and New York,
happened over the last week,
and is TIFF. So the only people that have seen it are the TIFF programmers.
Yeah.
So that's something as well that I think is kind of interesting, where, like, if you were to look back at this and think, like, okay, if Spielberg's The Fabelmans were to play at any festival, I would have bet on either AFI or New York.
Yeah.
So TIFF getting that is kind of the centerpiece of this year's festival, and I think it also changed a lot of people's minds that maybe were on the fence whether or not they wanted to come to the festival, and now it's kind of like, well,
Well, that's a must
this
see, right?
yeah, and it's going to probably be an awards film. So you have people like Michelle Williams, Seth Rogen, Paul Dano, it being an autofiction story, coming of age tale of a Spielberg adjacent character growing up in Arizona. Spielberg also just being one of, if not the most essential filmmakers of our time. Um, doing something this personal. And Close Encounters of the Third Kind has elements of his own kind of
Yeah.
personality in there, him struggling with, his father leaving and stuff like that. But I think this will kind
It's
of
a
really
sci-fi first
hit
and
home.
foremost, where this is
Yeah.
more. Yeah.
But there's still a lot of human elements in
Totally.
Close Encounters that kind of give you an insight to who Spielberg is as a person. And like even Spielberg talking about his own career trajectory in terms of like how he saw fathers in movies didn't change until his mother told him that his father didn't leave necessarily because he was abandoning his family. It was because the mom and him had a hard time, and it was just something where it was amicable. And so with that, like in the early 2000s moving forward, you saw fathers in Spielberg movies kind of have a more positive influence on characters, or a
Yeah.
stronger one. Like I would say even something with like Catch Me If You Can with Christopher Walken's character, and the way that DiCaprio's character sides more with his father than he does his mother.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, can't wait for it. Obviously, it'll probably be the hardest ticket to get, and those press screenings, depending on how many of them, are going to be nuts. Let's
Oh,
stick
yeah.
with galas at first, and then we'll move over to special presentations. So I don't know what you wanted to point out here. Obviously, Florian Zeller's The Son stands out for me. The Father was fantastic. Following up with The Son, will his next movie be The Holy Spirit? We will see.
The Mother. The
Oh,
Mother is the
oh,
third
okay, there
in
you
the
go.
trilogy of plays. So it's the Father, the Son, and the Mother.
Is it all done by the same playwright, or they're just
Yeah,
thematically?
it's all Florian Zeller. Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah, he adapted his own play,
Yep.
right? And then
Yeah.
he did all three. Yep. Now it's coming back to me. What an excellent movie. So,
It will be
obviously,
interesting with this as well, because obviously there was a clever conceit with the way that film was structured, especially with
right.
the editing, right? So it makes me wonder what the Sun will do, if it will do anything that's kind of, you know playing with the tech side of things or the editing side of things, or is it just going to be more
More
straightforward? Because the
straight. Yeah.
idea is that you have a divorce between Hugh Jackman and Laura Dern's characters, and they have a son who is really struggling, an adolescent son who's really struggling, and the father, played by
Hugh Jackman.
has a new wife played by Vanessa Kirby and a new infant son. And Laura Dern doesn't know what to do with the kids, so the son goes to live with them for a while. That's kind of the crux of the
Cool.
story. And Anthony Hopkins is apparently in the film, but it's apparently a very small little cameo.
Mm-hmm. Not the same character, or no? Or he's just in the
I don't
film?
think so. I don't know.
Like
I
it's
don't
not
I
connected, right? Or I don't
No,
know,
no, no,
but
I don't think so.
no,
I
not
mean,
connected.
thematically, I guess, but
The Zellerverse.
the Zellers verse.
So that stood out for me. Peter Farrelly coming back in the greatest beer run ever. Yeah, obviously had huge success with Green Book when he was here, winning the
People's
People's
Choice
Choice
winner,
Award
right?
in 2018. So you
No
got
controversy,
Zac
right?
Efron, Russell Crowe, Bill Murray in there. No, not at all. None. But I guess that's like a good get. He is an Oscar winning filmmaker. I watched the trailer for Hunt last night, which is the Lee Jung-jae movie.
It's
Thought it
one of the
looked
stars
cool.
of Squid Game, right?
I think it not leaked, but and they accidentally posted the trailer last night on the TIFF YouTube page, so I watched it before I went to sleep. Anything else from the galas that you wanted to
Yes.
point out or talk about, Eric?
So Gabe
Yeah.
Polsky, who directed Red Army, the documentary,
Right.
directs
Yep. Which I
Butcher's
probably should
Crossing,
watch.
which guess who stars in that?
Oh, Nick
Nick
Cage.
Cage.
Yes.
Oh
Isn't
yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yep.
Hell
So it's
yeah.
like a frontier western
All
with
about
Nick
that.
Cage, and he was talking about it during
I,
the awards run for Pig, in the Hollywood Reporter roundtable, and talking about like
yeah.
how like working with horses and stuff like that. Like you have to kind of be your own stuntman.
Right. I do remember
Um,
he talked about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool
Um
that this movie is playing not only in the festival but in the gala section,
That was a
because the gala is
gala.
because the gala is usually reserved for obviously kind of like the high end premiere movies that are more kind of accessible to mainstream audiences. So it does make you wonder if Butcher's Crossing is going to be a film that will, be able to kind of hit that 4 quadrant thing that people are always talking about, where it's like it's really accessible.
Yeah, yeah. Um what else on here stands out? I mean, it
Let's
all
see here.
again, it all sounds kind of
Documentary on Sidney Poitier,
yeah,
Sydney.
Reginald
Um,
Hudlin, right? Who's
yeah.
directing that? It's hard because like a lot of these things I'm like, oh, I barely know much about them until I kind of go through. And this is like, you guys are kind of getting a live look, is because I worked this morning and I had a deadline at 1 p.m. So we're recording right after that. So like I got, this press release email, I got the accreditation email, it all kind of came at once. And I've been like, "Oh, I can't process anything." And now I'm kind of processing it in real time. So I'm kind of looking through it with you guys.
It's like your Jack
Um,
Bauer.
Good for Tyler Perry. He's huge. Why not have him in the
Another
gala?
Netflix film.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, and we should also say, I mean, the opening movie was announced before this, but The
Yeah.
Swimmers is also a Netflix movie. So it's interesting that they're going for something a little bit more kind of smaller, and maybe something that people will, take a risk on, and go in there not knowing too much about the film beforehand, which is
Yeah.
always exciting, because obviously something like The Fabelmans, or The Woman King, or something like that could have been the opening film of the festival, but instead they decided to go with something that maybe is a little bit less mainstream, which I think is always kind of nice to kind of, not necessarily hook people with a big one, but to kind of bring people in slowly with something that will pique curiosity.
Yeah. I was realizing while I was trying to figure out what the other programs were, I could have just clicked on program on the website. That's right in front of my face. Okay, into special presentations, which I think is the bulk of kind of the things that we wanted to point out. Eric, I know you had your list, so I'm going to let you choose what you want to talk about first that you're
Oh
pumped
well,
about.
I mean, my list is a culmination of both the galas and the
Sure, yeah.
special presentations. So, let me just get to my top, as I called it, the top tier.
The
And
top
this was just
tier.
like at first glance. So there's stuff that I probably missed. Actually, there was one thing that I saw on the list that I missed, but these are just films off the top of my head. The Banshees of Ed Sheeran, Broker, Bros, Butcher's Crossing, Catherine Called Birdie, Decision to Leave, Empire of Light, The Eternal Daughter, The Fablemans, Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery, Moon Age Daydream, No Bears, One Fine Morning, The Sun, Triangle of Sadness, The Whale, Women Talking, and The Wonder. There was something else that I missed on the list that I was like, oh, I
Yeah,
should have put that on
we'll
my
go
top
through.
tier.
Yeah, I agree with basically all of your picks. Can't wait to see Ruben Ostlund's Triangle of Sadness. I remember Force Majeure just being such a wonderful surprise at the festival a while back now. That would have been 2014, right? Or something
Yeah.
like that. Um, I remember interviewing him. Great interview. I liked the Square quite a bit as well. So won the Palme d'Or, his
Second
second
time.
second Palme d'Or, which is wild. So that's definitely up there. And I'll be excited anytime a new Darren Aronofsky movie comes to TIFF. Uh, some of my fondest memories of TIFF are seeing a Darren Aronofsky movie from everything Black Swan and Mother and everything in between. Are those his last two that he brought to TIFF? Did he bring
Yeah,
something
Mother
else?
was the last film that he had at the festival,
And then
which
Black
I
Swan
saw in
before that?
IMAX.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably would have been Black Swan, because Noah didn't play.
Yeah.
Um, trying to think. Well, I mean, one of my favorite TIFF memories was seeing The Wrestler at the
Oh, you
festival
saw it
'cause
at
it had,
TIFF? I didn't.
yeah, it had just played. I think it was Venice, and that's where it kind of got its debut, and that's where everybody was talking about like, oh, the comeback performance from Mickey Rourke.
Mhm.
And then watching it at TIFF, it was like that was an amazing year because I remember seeing the Hurt Locker, the Wrestler,
I
and
skipped.
Hunger.
I was in college that year in London, so sorry I'm yelling at everyone. I got up early to work. I didn't
You
go to
bored by
TIFF that
this,
year.
Matt?
No, but that would have been, I'm a huge wrestling fan, and I love Darren Aronofsky, so I would have, and I love The Wrestler, so
Yeah.
that would have been a great premiere to be at. But yeah,
Also saw Zach and
I
Miri make a porno that year.
yeah, I remember that too. Black Swan I did see, and Mother I saw, and then yeah, Noah skipped the festival circuit.
Mother.
So obviously, and Brendan Fraser, who was once my sworn enemy when I hated the Mummy movies, but I'm all here for Brendan Fraser comeback and for him to give like a really solid performance in this, or I hope
Well, he was
so.
really
So
good in Steven
yeah,
Soderbergh's
I heard
No
that. Yeah,
Sudden Move, and I mean he's in Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. Whether or not that does get released this
I'm
year, I
cheering
mean,
for him.
yeah,
I
and
think
he's
I
in
read
Batgirl too.
yeah, I read a good article about him that kind of made me go, you know what? I'm cheering for you. I'm cheering for you. Uh Excited for that. I'm excited for what else do we got on here? If there's
Oh,
something you
Holy
want to talk
Spider
about,
was the other
please.
one
Yeah.
that I was curious about because it's from the director of Border, and that also played at
Oh.
Cannes, and so it was kind of controversial. Some people didn't love it as much as Border, and kind of found it
One of the
was a little bit.
directors of The Last of Us.
Yep.
The Last
So
of Us.
some
Prime
cross
time.
promotion there.
Fucking
Um,
program it.
is prime time still happening this year?
Yeah.
Is that still a
Yeah.
thing?
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
they're
I
still
mean,
holding on to prime
it's lit.
time.
Hey, if they program The Last of Us, it's all worth it, Eric. Because like, here's my thing. If they already have some of the actors coming, now they have one of the directors of the series. I mean, he's not the person that directed the pilot episode, but if they bring a couple episodes, maybe they bring some of the cast and crew, even though they weren't involved. I'm just saying it's supposed to premiere in early 2023 on HBO. Not
Well, if
unheard
it's
of. They've
done
been
right, like it
well,
just
they've been shooting it
depends.
for a year, right? So you think like the first
Well,
couple
post
episodes they might
production.
have done, and then they might be like halfway through post or something on the season. But anyways, we'll get to predictions and other things later. Um, what else am I excited for? Sam Mendes. I'm more excited for Roger Deakins cinematography, but because
And
like the
Olivia
subject,
Colman being
yeah, Olivia
the
Colman's
lead.
always great.
Yeah.
And 1980s England sounds like cool. But it is I mean, I love anything in the 80s, even if it is like I mean, it's about a woman working in a cinema in the 1980s in England. So I'm shot by Roger Deakins. So like I'm here
Yeah,
for
I
it.
mean Sam Mendes is like kind of one of those guys where it's like, I really love Road to Perdition.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean he's kind of like, I'm surprised actually that this is not playing in the gala section because this kind of seems like a gala movie,
Yeah,
and
the
not
diff
necessarily a
the
special presentation.
like even Fabelmans being special presentation instead of a gala, right? Like it's just
Or
interesting what they
Masters
choose
even, I
for.
guess.
Yeah,
Because that
right. Yeah.
Fablemans could have been the master section.
It's always just interesting. I guess maybe it's based on cast and crew that they can get, or anything, or where they want to premiere the movie, how many screenings it has, and all that kind of stuff. So, um, I'm not really sure how they differentiate what should be what, but um, what else do we got here that
The
you want to
Good
go
Nurse is
through?
interesting because I'm curious about the story. It's a true crime story about a male nurse who is known to be one of the most notorious and prolific serial killers. The only thing I'm hesitant why I didn't put in my top tier, because I really like the director as well, Tobias Lindholm, who directed A Hijacking and A War, which are really solid movies, is that it stars Eddie Redmayne as the serial killer.
Right.
But if he is playing a creepy serial killer, that might work because you're not supposed to like him. And it co-stars Jessica Chastain as well, who's coming off of an Oscar
Your
win
your weird
last year.
feud
So
with
I don't
Eddie
have a feud.
Redmayne.
I just don't think he's good
I know.
necessarily. I mean, like, he's okay, but maybe playing a serial killer, um, it'll be
Yeah.
perfect for him, because you hate him
Um.
already, and, like, you're fascinated by the true crime procedural elements.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a Netflix movie as well, and Jessica Chastain returning to the festival, where just last year she was vetted with an award of some kind. I think like an acting award
Thanks
alongside
for coming
Ben.
award.
Yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch, and premiering The Eyes of Tammy Faye, which won her the actress in a leading role Oscar. So like, that's another one where it'll be like, okay, like, we'll see like what her follow-up is, not including the 355, which was terrible. Looking at the list further, I'm curious about Devotion, because of it starring Jonathan Majors and Glenn Powell, and also it
Yeah.
being another aviation movie. So I wonder if that will play in
IMAX.
in IMAX, but also if like they'll have the Cinesphere involved.
Yeah, I don't know. That's going to be an interesting thing because they usually have done a Cinesphere movie every year for the
And this seems
last
like that would
couple.
be the one,
Yeah, but I
unless they
don't
have
know if
something
it's
else.
that's not really like an IMAX movie, is it? Have they said it's going to be an IMAX and stuff? Devotion
It
2022.
seemed like they were kind of prompting it to be another kind of like, off the heels of Top Gun Maverick,
Yeah.
a lot of it kind of taking place within, the cockpits of these planes and that dynamic. And it kind of seemed like a big movie that way.
Yeah, I just haven't heard Sony talk about like if it's even going to be like they probably won't do a big premiere at Cinesphere unless like it is an actual partnership with IMAX, where I haven't really seen anything that says Devotion will be released in IMAX. So whether TIFF gets an IMAX movie this year to do something um at Cinesphere, I'm not really sure. I'll look at what's supposed to be coming out later in the year, but because
Because
they
I
could
think it's
always
an
add like
October
a
release.
mhm.
So,
Yeah, you
um,
know what? The
yeah,
trailers didn't really do much for me. I like the
me neither.
cast though, right? Like I
Yeah.
like Glenn Powell a lot. Jonathan Majors is awesome. Like I'm definitely down for it. It's just the
And if it is playing
trailers just
IMAX,
didn't. Yeah, oh
might
for
as
sure.
well,
I will
you
definitely
know.
do it.
Sometimes as
Park.
well, it's just scheduling, right? Like, in terms of, there's a list of films that you want to see, but like sometimes there'll be other things that it's like, okay, well, maybe I can see this movie in between, this other one if I have a large gap. And like, if Devotion's like one of those movies where it's like it's playing in between, two other
Yeah.
movies that you have that day, and you don't have anything going on for like 3 or 4 hours, that's
Yeah,
the
it's
kind of
not
movie that
necessarily
Devotion kind of
something you
things.
need to, but
No,
yeah, man, I don't think they'll do an IMAX thing this year. Like, it just doesn't really make sense. Like, the ones coming out, Halloween ends. So, unless they get that and Peter wants to do like a Midnight Madness at Cinesphere for it, like, that could be fun. Like, they're not going to get Black Adam. Like, it wouldn't. I just don't think that something like Black Panther would play a festival just because I don't think it'll be done.
no,
Like, I think they would be open to it if any Marvel movie was going to play a festival. I think Black Panther would be that movie, but I don't think that it'll even be ready by September. Creed
right.
3, maybe. Avatar, not a chance. And Shazam, not a chance. So, like, you don't really have one of those like prestigious IMAX movies this year, right? Like, you don't have a Nolan even to show like after it came out. You don't have a First Man. You don't. What was the
I mean,
last
unless they bring
one?
Top Gun in, or Nope or something like that, as kind of like a,
Yeah,
like a Dunkirk,
true. You're making a good point where maybe they do Nope on 70 millimeter with Jordan Peele in attendance or something like that, right? Like I
Yeah.
could see something like that, like the Nolan treatment, if Universal wanted to push it like for that kind of stuff. You're making a good point that that's probably something that they might do, but I'm trying
But
to
yeah,
think
there
what was the
really, I guess,
last
isn't.
one?
Well, wouldn't it have been Dunkirk?
Was it
That was like
Dunkirk
the
or
last.
First
Well,
Man?
Dune,
Dune would have been
but
it. Yeah.
yeah,
Dune. So, maybe Dune 2 in a year or so. But
Dune again.
Park Chan Wook has a new movie that looks always down for new Park Chan Wook. What else do we got here?
We got the new Mia Hansen Love with
Yeah.
Leah Seydoux, which Sony Pictures Classics picked up at Cannes. We got The Menu, which is a horror comedy with Ray Fiennes and Anya Taylor-Joy.
What's with Adam McKay producing a bunch of movies about cannibalism?
I don't know. What's he trying to say? That
Yeah, I'm like, what? Because he also
capitalism is
produced
cannibalistic?
Fresh. He
Yeah.
also produced Fresh, and now he's also producing The Menu. So I'm like,
Well, this year there's a lot of movies that have cannibalism as a theme. There's another film that I recently watched. I won't say anything more, but it's like, yeah, there's something going on this year about, consuming your own kind. That is just weird.
yeah,
Yeah, and then like just looking at this list further, you mentioned, Park Chan Wook. That's going to be interesting because that's a film that Mubi picked up right before it played at um, Cannes, and so I'm sure it will play at TIFF after the fall festival season. But that's a kind of movie where it's like this would be your best option to probably see it is at TIFF, and especially if it's playing at the Lightbox specifically. Like that's the kind of, or at the Princess of Wales or something like that, because we saw The Handmaiden um at Elgin,
at
right?
the Elgin. Yeah, we
Yeah.
did. We went to the premiere. We went to the premiere, um, which is a solid movie. But I remember that being one that was a struggle for me to stay awake in because not of any insult to the movie, but it was at that point of the festival where I'm like, I don't know if I can do this.
The
Yeah, what?
IMAX
Yeah,
movie.
yeah,
It might be, if they do, I can't believe I didn't realize this, is Moon Age Daydream, the
yeah.
David
It is
Bowie
getting an
doc.
IMAX release, isn't it?
Yeah. And apparently that's like the best way to see it. So
Okay, that's probably what it's going to be then. When does that come out?
that comes out, I believe, at the end of September. Elevation
Okay,
has it here in
yeah,
Canada, and it is Neon in the US, but I'm just looking at it now, and I will confirm it because I'm on the Elevation website, because they also have Darren Aronofsky's The Whale,
they do, they do.
Alice Darling, Black Ice. September 16th
Oh, okay.
is
So
when that
right
comes out.
during the festival. So
Yeah.
that's one of those things that it probably will be an IMAX thing, but it does come out during the festival. Raymond and Ray. I mean, I like both Ewan McGregor and Ethan Hawke, so I'm down for that. Rodrigo Garcia. What has he directed recently that I would?
Oh,
I'm
he's
trying to
kind of
think.
known as being one of those like ensemble actor directors who kind of like had a little bit of a history in the late 90s, early 2000s. He directed that
Have his
movie
stuff
with
up here.
Naomi Watts and
He had
Samuel L.
four
Jackson.
four good days recently, which was
Oh,
that I forgot came out last year or 2 years ago.
hey, it got Diane
Um,
Warren an Oscar nomination for a
yeah,
song.
yeah. Albert Nobbs. Okay, 9 Lives, Passengers.
Nine Lives is
Not.
the big one where it was like that ensemble film of
Yeah,
his
yeah.
that Roger Ebert really loved.
Okay, cool. He's directed some TV and stuff lately too.
Yeah.
Party of Five, the 2020
Hell
Party of
yeah.
Five. All right. But I like both of those guys, so I'm definitely intrigued by that. What else? What else stands out? Anything else from your list, Eric, that you wanted
Well,
to?
I mean, Martin McDonough, the Banshees of
Yeah,
Inisherin, I think is one of those movies where, like, again, this is his follow up to Three Billboards. He's bringing back his In Bruges leads, Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell. You also have Barry Cogan in there, so it's going to be one of those movies that it'll be interesting, just in terms of like the premise being two friends that no longer really want to be friends, kind of stuck on this island together. So it kind of seems almost like it's going to be play like, but it'll probably cinematically really incorporate a lot of the landscape. And it'll probably be very biting satirically and also darkly comedic in nature. So that'll be interesting to see how that does. I'm really excited for Joanna Hogg's follow up to The Souvenir Part 1 and 2,
Right.
reteaming with Tilda Swinton. She shot this movie right after or in between the Souvenir movies, and it seems to be kind of almost like a, it's an A24 movie, so it'll be elevated horror and like a haunted memory,
I'm all for it. I got an
gothic
A24
film.
t-shirt on right now.
You sure are. I mean, The Whale being another A24 movie. Just looking down the list here.
I'm always here for a new Christopher Abbott movie during TIFF. So Sanctuary with him and Margaret Qualley,
Yeah,
where I don't know much about it. I don't know who Zachary Wigon is, but
I don't either.
the log line is the heir to an hotel, the heir to a hotel empire,
An
Christopher
hotel.
Abbott, and the dominatrix who has primed him for success, played by Margaret Qualley, battle it out in a hotel room as he tries to end their relationship. Here for that.
Yeah.
I'm here for that.
So even though we didn't get the Olivia Wilde movie, we do have Sebastian Lilio's The Wonder with Florence Pugh, which is a Netflix
Right.
film,
Yeah.
and we do have My Policeman with Harry Styles. So that'll be interesting as well, because I'm going to be honest with you, I don't dislike Harry Styles, but there's something about him where I feel like he's trying a little too hard to be the next David Bowie. And it's like, dude, you don't have to be all that. You
The
can
new Harry Styles album's good. Is real.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I feel that he does try a little too hard. That's all.
Sure. Yep.
In terms of like the gender fluidity thing that Bowie did so well, and
Sure.
kind of creating, Ziggy Stardust, and like going in, like I love David Bowie so much, so that's the kind of thing where like I see people that try to imitate that, and I'm just kind of like, it's wonderful to have that in.
Why do it? Because you're not gonna do it better.
Yeah, be you, man, be you.
Maybe it
sing
is
about
better.
watermelons, but just keep it real.
Yeah, it's a stacked lineup, really. Like,
we should mention Wendell and Wild, which is the stop motion animation movie with Key and Peele, directed by Henry Selick, the director of A Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so there's a ton of Netflix stuff here.
That's another Netflix. Yeah, they have a great partnership with TIFF and a large chunk. So it's interesting that things like Blonde not on the list here.
No, Luca Guadagnino's Bones and All, Todd Field's Tar, those two movies, and Blonde, I think, are all playing.
The Olivia Wilde movie, which you just brought up too.
Don't Worry, Darling, are all Venice films, and Paul Schrader as well, Master Gardener.
Yeah,
although
Master
Paul
Gardener.
Schrader is getting
could show up in Masters too,
which would be amazing. And just what is he going to say? Because he's getting an honorary award at Venice, so it's only like you're going to give him the floor. Prepare for anything.
I could still see that. I could still see that popping up. So I mean, I guess that's
especially with First Reformed, right?
Yeah, we'll finish off with that. So like we have two programs now, which is always the ones that they first announce. So what we still need is contemporary world cinema, Discovery, Midnight Madness, Platform, Prime. Oh, Platform too.
Platform's great. That's where Moon Knight and Jackie and Lady Macbeth all had their debuts, and it's always fun to see what the jury is, because that's kind of like the mini can in TIFF.
Yeah, so usually it's 10 or probably 9 or 10 movies, right? Because it's one per day of the festival, and they have a premiere at the Elgin, and they actually have a jury and they choose the winner there. So like, yeah, it's usually a mix of like, you might get one or two big movies, I use in quotes, like recognizable names or something like that. Then you have a mix of foreign stuff and some smaller stuff, and like it is a really interesting kind of program, and we might even see one of those movies we talked about in that category too, because that's happened as well. So you got to think there's probably a couple big movies that they're saving for Platform. We also have Primetime, Shortcuts, Cinematheque, Docs, Next Wave, And Next Wave Selects is usually just a stamp that they put on other movies where the Next Wave crew says like, this is Next Wave approved for young people. And then
Extreme.
Wavelengths, which is not pretentious. I was joking. There is some
How
cool
dare
stuff
you
in
insult Michael Snow's legacy, you bastard.
I've seen some Wavelengths movies that I like.
I
I'm
have
sure if
too.
I watched
Some are
even more.
pretentious.
Some are very pretentious.
But that's the
So
festival in general. Like in
yeah.
any category, in any program, there are
Yeah.
movies.
That's just movies in general.
Yeah, one man's pretentiousness is another man's Pop-Tart. I don't
bubbly
know. Something
watermelon.
good. Yeah. Populist film. I don't know.
Totally. So yeah, I'm excited to see what else pops up. Like Midnight Madness is always a favorite of ours.
Yep.
I am excited to see. We had Peter on the podcast a couple years ago. Maybe I'll hit him up and see if he has time. But very interested to see what horror movies and genre movies come. I don't know, Eric, if you have any predictions for that or in the
I'm just
other
trying to think, like,
categories.
what.
So like I could see some of those things that you talked about showing up in Masters or Platform, like whether it's Paul Schrader or any of that. Like I could see popping up in one of those categories. I already said The Last of Us for prime time. That would be a huge get. Is that going to happen? Probably not. But
if it does, Matt
a
Rohrbeck.
boy can dream. My two loves coming together into one thing would be three loves really: video games, the film festival, and just Last of Us in general, and like and stuff like that. Where if the Last of Us, and I think because of the filmmakers involved and the cast and stuff like that, I wouldn't put it past them. And HBO has premiered stuff at TIFF, and they have a good relationship with TIFF because of the Crave stuff through Bell. So they always do premieres at Lightbox. Like they're doing one for House of the Dragon. They do it for all the big like HBO premieres. So would not, and it's shot in Canada, in Calgary. So like there are many different things here where I think because of the cast and crew and where it's shot and the relationship, I'm like, and it's supposed to be premiering January or February. I'm like, they could be ready with one episode. Maybe it's a longer episode or maybe two episodes, but like not likely, but I'm going to throw it out there. And if it happens, I predicted it. Okay. Give me credit.
Yeah. Well, no, definitely. And I mean, it also depends, I think, as well, because the director of Beanpole had to flee Russia. So,
yeah.
I mean, it depends as well, like what he's doing right now. And like, I think he's living in New York, and he was trying to make another, like he was going to shoot a movie called Monica in Russia, but then fled because of what's going on with the Ukraine.
He didn't
and
agree
Russian.
with everything, and he just said, fuck this, and I left. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he didn't want to become a political prisoner or what have you. And we're talking about Jafar Pahani. So that might be a factor as well. Where I mean, not that he doesn't, not that he has to do press or anything, but sometimes those circumstances do play a role, and you can understand why maybe someone would want to pass because of that. And I mean, obviously, that show doesn't need the festival to have
but it
people's
would
excitement.
just be an interesting.
Because you have the directors of Beanpole, Kuvada.
I think that's my main reason.
Border all having directed episodes, and then to your point, being a Canadian production, and having an actor who's going to be at the festival anyways at the Lena Dunham movie. So like these things kind of like all. I'm sure somebody at TIFF is thinking like this, in terms of having
I would
that
if
kind
I
of
worked
galaxy
there,
brain.
or someone listening. I know some people there do listen to this episode.
But if it is playing, we will review it.
God, man, I'll be the first thing. That'll be my most anticipated thing. It's not even a movie, but it will be. And then Midnight Madness. Do my question there. I know I'm the guy who's going to throw out the populist stuff. Eric can go with the deep cuts and things like that. Does Halloween End show up? Halloween Kills skip the festival. Halloween played the festival.
Halloween and Predator were the two big movies that played.
Oddly enough, we have Prey this year, but it's coming out before the festival. And we'll have a review for that next week. I just posted my Twitter reaction, so you guys can go check that out. And then Halloween Ends I'd be curious to see, like, I could see Peter bookending those films of going, "Oh, we had Halloween and now we'll finish it with Halloween Ends," or I could see Halloween Ends just waiting and playing Fantastic Fest.
Yeah, or I mean, maybe the Luca Guadagnino movie plays in Midnight
Yeah.
Madness because it is a cannibal love story, and apparently it is very much a horror film, and then maybe that's going to be like the T10 of this year. But like, what I
Yeah.
really like about Peter
Art house
is
horror, yeah.
he's yeah. Well, I mean, he's a guy that's, I think, a little bit, like us in that we like a little bit of everything. Like, he'll bring in some really
Yeah.
wonderful, movies from South Asia. He'll bring in some movies, from Eastern Europe that you've never heard of. He'll bring a platform to Canadian filmmakers, like, the directors of Violation or the
Yeah.
director of the 20th Century. So, he's a very open-minded genre fan. Like, he's not just going to select, like, Halloween Ends. I get it. I totally get it. I'm sure it'll be a blast if it
No, there's
plays.
always 1 or 2 of those. Not
Yeah.
always, but you know what I
But
mean.
like, you look in the last few years, there's always, like, even something like Saint Maud, like, you can't necessarily predict those movies, even though it would be nice in hindsight to have the credit of being like, I knew something like Saint Maud was going to play. Well, no, because we didn't even know what Saint Maud was. We didn't even realize that was on the
Yeah.
radar. So, it's always
And there'll
fun
be
to
a
be
bunch of those,
surprised
but
by movies, even in just the other programs. Like, during the festival, our schedules might change based on, us hearing about a film that is, something that is discovered at the festival that maybe isn't necessarily a film that already
maybe in the
has,
Discovery program.
yeah, that doesn't already have a platform, or a profile that's high. Like, obviously everybody's going to want to see the Fabelmans, and we'll cover it, and things like that. But, I'm sure there's something even in the special presentations and galas that we're, not giving enough attention to, that could become the breakout film of the festival. And that's the other thing that I've always loved doing with you, is that, you discover something that is like, oh wow, like, this is really, really exciting.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of TIFF and just festivals in general, right? Like, of course, we can be excited for the new Spielberg or Darren Aronofsky or these filmmakers that we really love, or maybe an actor we really love, or something like that. But I think you and I, Eric, we definitely try to have a good breadth of content during the fest of like, okay, here's stuff we're very excited to see and we have to see. Part of it's like, well, what's going to get us listens and clicks and stuff like that too. Like sometimes that plays into it of going, okay, we're going to review this. We're going to go see Dear Evan Hansen because it's
Oh
a
god.
big movie at the festival, right? Maybe not a good one, but like we're going to do that kind of stuff. But then we're also going to go, oh, this has an actor I like in it, or I heard of this filmmaker from this thing, or this person saw this at this festival and said it was excellent, even though it has no known actors or anything in there. Um, and I think that's like what I always say for people who listen to this and maybe, we cover it and some people it's an expensive thing to go to. You can only choose so many tickets unless you really invest your time and money into it. So sometimes you go for those big things, but our suggestion will always be, yeah, maybe do 3 for you, 1 for, you know, like them in the sense
One for
of
the
like,
fans.
yeah, of like going pick something that you either hear is that you might not have normally watched or something like that, just to kind of give something a shot, which is, and usually those movies you can get either cheaper or different things like that because they don't sell out like those big movies do. So um
And it
y-
also just depends on your own schedule, right? Like, if you're only going up, like, if you're going to Toronto, like, say if you're, from the Durham region, or, further out west in Mississauga or something like that, or coming in from another province. I'm not even necessarily saying, from another country, and
yeah.
you're coming in for one weekend, you know chances are you're not going to necessarily be able to see the films that are on your list. So always have backups, and also be open to kind of walking into something that maybe that's not on your radar, and then kind of just discovering it. Like, if you want to see a movie at the festival and you don't have a particular preference of what film you want to see, sometimes it's just fun to go in there and see something that you have no idea, the first time. Like, there's no press or no trailers or any marketing material, and that's kind of the best way to go in. There's no bias or preconceived notions. And then I think the other thing that's really important, and this comes from, having done this for so long, and we're men of the early 30s now. I think it's important to not burn out. I think it's important to know,
Yeah.
like, if you need to take some time after watching a movie that, whether it be an entertainment or, do that for yourself, because sometimes you need to decompress, and you're not doing the next film that you're watching a service by going in there either
No.
exhausted or feeling like you don't want to. You need sometimes to go
I've
and get a
learned, yeah.
coffee or sit and
I don't do the 40 anymore. I just can't do it. Maybe with pre-screening, if those come
yeah.
back, that maybe I would boost the numbers up by another 10 to 15 or whatever if we were able to see that much before the festival. But the last couple of years, we haven't pre-screened much at all for inside baseball stuff. And then I looked at my last 2 years and I've been averaging 25, 26. And I know you usually have been going 30, 35. You usually see 5 or 10 more than me.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's definitely good advice. Like, I know when I used to tell people like, oh yeah, I see 40 movies, and they're like, the hell is wrong with you? How is that even possible? And I know people who see 50 movies during the festival, right? And I know that people love it, but um yeah, I find that 2 to 3 a day. Sometimes you like that one movie day when you have them or something like that. Like, it just
That
feels
1 or 2 day
nice.
where it's like it's
Yeah.
super breezy, it's easy to go,
One
and
in the
like
morning, one in the evening, you got some
yeah.
time. Yeah.
And if you do Midnight Madness, it's one of those things, like,
Oh
if you
God,
want to
yeah.
go to the midnight screening, I think you really have to kind of like prepare, because I remember the year that we saw um Green Room, and that was the first day of that festival, and we had seen, I think, like 4 or 5 movies beforehand, and then we had screenings the next morning, I think at around like 8 or 9 in the morning.
Yeah.
It really does a number on you. So Midnight Madness is an absolute blast, and if you want to have that experience, go for it. It's unlike anything during the festival season. It's a lot of fun. It even makes a lesser movie, if there is one, better because of the atmosphere and that communal kind of nature. But just kind of prepare yourself, like if you're seeing a midnight movie, and maybe you don't have the work restrictions of like if you're working for a major outlet, you're probably not going to cover a Midnight Madness movie. But if you're
Mhm.
working for something on your own, or you have a little bit more sort of wiggle room,
Or you're just
maybe
going to the festival, yeah.
yeah, maybe just wait, like see the Midnight Madness movie, but then maybe the next day make your first film at
Don't
noon
do
or
the 8
something like
a.m.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's too many times where I'm like, why do we have an 8 a.m. movie tomorrow?
Drink plenty of water, and
M&M's, Coke
also
Zero.
when you can get something green in you, whether it be a salad
Eh.
or something. No, I know
I know,
it's
I'm
it's
kidding. You
very
know what I'm
rare.
gonna this year? What I've fallen in love with, the green juice from 7-Eleven. You might laugh.
Yeah.
If there's a
No.
7-Eleven nearby, they have a great green juice that gives you a lot of vegetables, and it actually tastes pretty good. So I'm gonna
If
be
you can get
crushing
one
those.
thing healthy in
Um,
you a day,
per
that's
day. Yeah, that's
yeah.
pretty good. But we're
Because other
always
than that,
around,
it's a lot of
so
egg McMuffins.
I'm gonna be. Oh, was last year the year of the Egg McMuffin, or was it the year
Yeah, that
before?
was our not a sponsor.
Yeah, I'm gonna be crushing Egg McMuffins this year too. It's gonna be interesting because, like, I'm up in Etobicoke. Was I up here last year? Or did I move right after TIFF? I think I moved right after TIFF, didn't I, or something like that? I forget.
Yeah, I think
But
you were close to, because we were both.
we only came in once in a while, right? Because we only
Yeah,
had, like, it was mostly digital, and then we did only a couple days coming in for things, right?
yeah, it was spread out, because the last thing we saw in person last year was the Soderbergh movie, and then after
Yeah,
that it was more
Kafka.
front loaded, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so this year I think we'll probably be there in person more.
Every day,
Um,
probably, I would assume, because
yeah,
they're
so
not doing a digital um version of the press stuff. You have to go see stuff in person. So everything's back in person. Um I'll be quadruple vaxxed by then. I'm gonna get mine at the end of August
have you
for
booked your
my
appointment
fourth
yet?
shot. Yeah, for August
Now, are
23rd
you
or
this
something.
this is a little inside baseball, because I was going to ask you about this anyways.
Yeah,
Are you getting the regular vaccine, or are you getting
yeah.
the?
I'm gonna
Okay.
get so what? Yeah, now welcome to vaccine talk, but we're big proponents of getting vaccinated, especially before a big film festival and stuff like this. So,
Well, we
I
had a
think it's
scare last year as well when
that
we got
Dune,
that
yeah,
email from Dune, and luckily neither one of us got sick, and we were wearing our masks and things like that.
yeah.
But chances are, you always want to minimize the risk.
Oh,
But
we've both had it, which I don't
yeah,
want to get it again. It sucked.
no,
And or if I do, I want it to be more minor. Um Everything I read said you still should wait 3 months from when you had COVID to get it. And then I know I mentioned to you that they were going to be updating like some DLC for the vaccines or updating them. But like the new versions might not come out until the fall. So from everything I've read was just like you might as well get vaccinated now, especially if we're going to like a big event like this. And then just your next shot will be the updated version, right? Because
yeah,
even though this doesn't necessarily target all the different variants and stuff like this new version, again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just
you just play one on
relaying what I,
TV.
yeah, relaying what I read online. And originally I was going to wait, but then people are like, if you get it, you still don't want it to like hit you hard, right? So you probably still want to get it now if you're eligible, and then maybe just pump me full of fucking vaccinations, baby. So,
And you
anyways,
need time for it to incubate and get through your
yeah.
system, right?
Well,
Like you
that's why
can't
I'm
just
getting
get
it
it like
2 weeks before.
right
Yeah,
before the festival. Like you
yeah,
need the two
a couple
weeks,
weeks.
right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
mine is going to be almost exactly 2 weeks. So, because
And even
that
with monkeypox, it's like
yeah, I know,
it's like,
dude. I had that scare too, right? Because we had these weird bumps, but they went away. So, anyways, now we're getting off topic. But anyways, if you're going to
health
TIFF,
scare 2022.
get vaccinated, wear a mask. I don't know if any of that shit's going to be mandatory during the festival. I'm not 100% sure what they're doing, but everything's back in person. Um, if you listen to this show and you've always wanted to go, try to go. Say hi to us. We'll be around. I don't even know how we're going to be recording stuff this year. You might bump into us as we're recording something. So just feel free to interrupt us. It happened multiple times and we'll keep it in the show because that's
We like a
probably
little
how we're going to do it,
character in our show, as
especially
you can
during
probably
TIFF,
tell.
man. So I'm excited. I
Yeah.
think we'll probably do the on the run recording. I'd like to do video versions, but I just don't know. I'll put them up on YouTube still, but they might just be like screenshots of our face or Cameron Bailey or something. I don't know. But I'm excited. So this won't be the last TIFF talk, but it is the first standalone episode for this year. I'm excited for all the special presentations and galas. Can't wait for Tiffer to get up and running. I can't wait to start building that sketch. Building the schedule is one of my favorite things. It's like one of the nerdiest things I love doing, but I absolutely love building a schedule and Tetris fitting every movie we want to see and way overloading our schedules and then figuring it out later. But um, it is genuinely my favorite time of the year. So I'm very excited to cover it. So keep it locked right here. We'll have a full TIFF preview show probably before the festival. We'll have reviews every single day, multiple reviews. We're going to be doing individual reviews. They might be audio only, but also on YouTube. We'll see how everything goes because I'll have my laptop with me, but it'll be chaotic of trying to get everything up while I'm still going to see movies and different things like that. So be patient, but the audio version should be easy to get up. The video versions will be a little trickier, but we'll have reviews every single day. We'll have a pre-festival podcast, post-festival podcast. Maybe
There
guests
might
will
be
drop
some video.
in.
There might be some video episodes though if we
Oh,
do
we will
pre-screening,
pre-recording,
right?
yeah. And I think either way, if we can do a video version when we're on the go, we will. It's just
On the go train.
it all really really depends. So I'm pumped. So September 9th to the
8th to
19th,
18th.
8th to
8th to 8th.
18th this year.
Yeah.
So we'll
The
have
8th best podcast covering
the
TIFF
8th to
during the
the
8th
8th.
to the 18th.
Yeah, love it, love it. Thank you all for listening or watching. We really, really do appreciate you. You are the reason that we are the 8th best movie podcast in Canada. You're also the reason why we're not number one, all right? Because if more of you
Wow.
listened or watched, we'd be higher,
What
okay?
a
So
back-ended
tell your
compliment.
friend, Tell your friends, tell your family. I
Write a
don't care.
review and tell us how
Right.
much you love us.
Go on Apple Podcasts, write us a review, send it to your mom, send it to your grandma. I don't care if they don't like movies. Just say,
Send it to
hey,
your cousin.
can
Send
you
it to your
please
dad.
subscribe to this? These guys need to be number 2 because we're never passing film junk.
If your milkman is listening, you know we've broken through.
Yeah. Go check out our reviews for Jordan Peele's Nope, the Russo brothers, The Greyman, Taika Waititi's Thor: Love and Thunder. I'm surprised his Next Goal Wins isn't showing up anywhere. I guess
Apparently, it's not going to be until next year.
Oh, interesting. They're just
They
really
moved
punting it. Yeah, they're just
Yeah.
anyways, whatever. Our newest episode, 127 of the Untitled Movie Podcast. We already mentioned it, but we cover all the Comic-Con news from last weekend. So we go through Marvel Studios Phase 5 and 6. We do talk about Spielberg and the Fabelmans being at TIFF, but you kind of already got that in this episode, so you could skip over that.
Or you can
don't
listen to both,
us.
compare
Yeah.
and contrast.
See if we make sense. Anyways,
Nope.
as always, go check out our letterbox, which is untitled_cast, especially during TIFF. All the reviews will be up there. That'll probably be your easiest spot to find everything. So go head over there. As always, my name is Matt Rohrbeck. You can find more of my work around the internet, but mostly at untitledmoviepodcast.com. And you can follow me on all those social medias at Matt Rohrbeck.
And I'm Eric March, and you can find more of my video reviews, including Resurrection with Rebecca Hall, which, in my opinion, is one of the best performances of the year, on rogerstv.com/cinemascene, and on the social medias at EM6211.
Until next time.
This was TIFF Talk 2022 Special Presentations and Gala.
Love that.